Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reading r/niceguystories. Unlike r/niceguys, this is more story oriented. I let a friend get overly involved in my life. I met a guy online and we lived pretty far away, so I felt way too comfortable getting close to him. I should have been more careful and wary about being friends with a stranger online, but I was short-sighted. We live in different countries. I live in the United States, he lives in Korea, so I felt fine getting close to him. When we first started talking, he was a pretty reserved and normal-seeming guy. Our friendship got weird though because after a month or two of knowing each other, he came to a neighboring city of mine because he wanted to visit some family. It was weird because I noticed he spent a lot of time in my city rather than his family's, since my city is actually a city, and his family's city was very rural. I ignored it and believed him when he said he was bored. I introduced him to my friends and family. He was bored, lonely, and having a hard time, so I felt bad for him. He got close to a lot of my friends, too close for me to feel comfortable, and he's still in contact with some of them. He was in our city for a few weeks before going home to Korea again. While he was here, he generally seemed like a normal guy. He was nice, funny, and made more friends in a few weeks being here than I had for years I've been here. He got home and called me every day. Around this time, quarantine started in both of our hometowns, so I assumed he was calling me often out of being lonely and bored, since I too was lonely and bored. I kept up with his calls. He managed to make me feel like somehow even my best friends cared less about me because they didn't seem to want to talk to me. He made me feel more alone while still talking to me for hours a day. A few months into our friendship, I started to notice how superficial he was with me. He knows so much about me, but he was very good at avoiding telling me anything about himself. He made a few comments, and I thought he was being abused or something. I thought he didn't tell me anything because of that, but he started becoming different to me. And I realized maybe that's not the case. He started asking me questions like, if you had to choose between me and your dad, who would you choose? What about me and your dogs? I obviously chose my family because I only known him for a few months. We were only friends anyway. It's not like he was my boyfriend or husband. I don't know why he was expecting a different response than the one I gave him. He also, around this time, started doing something that irritated me beyond measure. He began hooking up with random people he met in bars and stuff, but after hooking up with them, he thought they were slutty and whorish. I told him he was being a hypocrite, because he was doing the same thing, but he told me that I was wrong, because girls who hook up with people are sluts, and since he's a guy, it doesn't apply to him. After arguing for a while about this, I saw it wasn't going anywhere. I chose to ignore his immature attitude, and assumed maybe there was a cultural or language-based barrier that prevented us from fully understanding what the other one was talking about. My strange interactions with him began to increase, rapidly. He would always ask if I was around family, and if I was, he wanted me to move away from them when I talked to him. I thought this was very weird as he's met my family, but I also was in quarantine and lonely. I didn't want to risk losing a friend. I would go in my room whenever I wanted to talk to him. At this point in time when I was talking to him, he would often interject saying like, did I ask? Why should or would I care? Or, shut up, I literally don't care. I told him I didn't like that, and he would always reply saying it was a joke, and he was always that way with all of his friends. I was beginning to feel uncomfortable and pathetic every time he called. It was stupid how much I let him get under my skin. He made comments about how well he knew me and that he knew so much about me. The worst part was, he wasn't wrong. Sometimes we were chatting up to 8 hours a day. We were watching movies together over Zoom, discussing random things all the time. And he sometimes was even chatting with various members of my family and friends. At one point, he got really brave. He started telling me in vivid, detailed dreams he would have about me. He made comments about imagining me on top of him, sitting on certain parts of his body, and him doing things to me in his dreams. I feel like I should say this so it's a little bit clearer why this was weird for me. Even though I'm in my 20s, not saying how old for anonymity reasons, I've never had a boyfriend before. I've never had my first kiss before. I'm a virgin. I felt dirty with him saying these things to me, so I expressed that with him. But I feel like that encouraged him. He seemed to enjoy my virginity way too much. Multiple times, he decided to go over sexual dreams he had of me. I felt like this was weird, but I'd never been in a relationship like that before. So I started wondering if maybe I was wrong for thinking that behavior was weird. I called a friend who moved to a different state for college and asked her about it. She told me it was strange and I should cut things off. Deep down, I agreed with her, but I wasn't sure how to end it. He was really intertwined with my life. He was also one of the only people of my age I had consistent contact with. I didn't want to lose the only person who was actually talking to me. I didn't want to be alone. so I moronically put up with all of his odd behaviors towards me. Whenever my phone rang and I saw his name, my stomach fell into a pit of my ass. My stomach would feel the same way it feels to smell vomit. I wasn't sure how to process everything happening in our friendship. I was putting up with a lot, and I think I hit a point where I was starting to feel responsible. I put myself into this position, and if I leave, he has other means of access to me. I connected him to everyone in my life. I gave him easy access to me. He knows everyone in my life. He knows my address. He has friends connected to me through the school I go to, the church I attend. I did this to myself. I trapped myself here, and now I have to put up with it. I didn't cut him off and let things progress. He started asking me to send him pictures. He wanted a picture of my face every day, and he wanted me to send pictures of me in the shower and in the bath. Instead, I started sending him pictures of cute K-pop idols, as a joking way of avoiding his request. This peeved him off. He would call me multiple times a night at ridiculous late hours. And if I didn't pick up his calls, he'd spam call me and message me. I started getting short with him and picked up calls asking, "What do you want?" Or, "Why are you calling me at 3 a.m.? He hated that. He said he didn't like that I was becoming a meaner person. He said I was hurting his feelings. And I, again dumbly, felt bad and thought maybe I was really in the wrong. I don't know when all of these things started happening, but he also began to make awful comments when he was upset with me, wishing I was raped or killed. He started asking creepy-ass questions about my sister, who is a minor. He often made comments about my mouth and the things he wanted to do to it. I told him he wouldn't get my permission, and he said he would do it without my permission. He asked more than once along the lines of, "If I were to grab you and kiss you, insert various public locations here, what would you do to me? Do you want to kiss me?" He would also tell me about how he wanted to hurt some of his innocent peers. He would beat up some of his classmates for entertainment, without them previously doing anything that actually upset him. He claimed to just like hurting people. He started asking me to pucker my lips at him like I was kissing him through the FaceTime camera, and if he managed to make me feel crappy enough, he would sometimes get me to do it. We FaceTimed so often that at one point I accidentally flashed my bra, and another time I was wearing shorts and accidentally flashed my butt cheeks. He brought these up all of the time. He talked about how squishy my butt looked and the things he wanted to do to it. I fell asleep a few times during our FaceTimes, and that he claimed in one of them I moved and he was able to see my nipple. He told me that he screenshotted it. Even now, I don't know how many screenshots he actually has of me, and whether or not he actually has a picture of my nipple. There's so much more, but I don't know how to organize a year's worth of crap in my head. I'm going abroad soon to a school near his house. He knows I'm going to be there, and he knows when I'll be arriving, / for how long I'll be there. I'm paranoid. I finally, briefly skimmed over a few incidents to my parents, and they convinced me to block him. But I'm scared of being murdered or molested once I get there. It's my dream to study abroad, and I want to work on my fluency in the language, but he's threatened me more than once. He's a fighter for fun. He loves violence. But now I'm stuck with the consequences of making friends with a stranger online. I'm not sure what to do. I bought a keychain that doubles as a self-protection stick, but I'm so worried. I've considered cutting off all my hair and dyeing it, wearing a hat, mask, and sunglasses every time I'm out. And even wearing a ton of clothes, hiding in crowds, and never going anywhere by myself while I'm there. But I'm not sure what to do. What would you do in this situation? How do I, a short, unathletic, and somehow naive girl, manage to avoid and / or get away from a guy who believes he's entitled to my time? How do I stay safe when he's a tall, athletic, and violent guy, knows so much about me, possibly has damning photos of me, and will be living next door to my campus? If you have any advice for me, please let me know. I'm planning on posting this on a few subreddits, because I'm hoping for some input from various communities. I'm not paying for therapy, but instead I'm asking for advice. Does anyone have advice on how I should handle the situation? Thank you for taking the time to read this. Stay safe during these uncertain times and have a nice week. A kinda sad nice guy story. First time posting a story, I don't know how to format, and this is a pretty long story, so bear with me. I had a best friend for 3 years, and that man was a nice guy. At first, he was very nice, like genuinely. I did grow to have feelings in a way, but that changed pretty quickly. I met him first in class, or well, on the bus, but became friends with him in class. He liked anime, video games, and a lot of the same things I did, and we quickly became friends. I'll give him a fake name. Carl. I have so many good memories about him, but during that time, I was deep in depression. Hurting myself wasn't a surprise. When I told him about my problems, he was quick to say that he had it worse. That's when I started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. How he tended to be nice to me and then suddenly was really rude. He told me I was abusive and toxic, but also said I was kind and sweet. Being called abusive was one of the things that would often cause me to break down, due to past issues. I told him that, yet he kept going. Nearing the end of the first year of our friendship, he had confessed his feelings to me. I rejected him. He kept trying to make it feel like I owed a date to him, or anything because he listened to my depression, but it wasn't like that. There was a field trip and he kept harassing me during it. It was a field trip to the water park. He kept splashing me and I really couldn't breathe. He insulted me and was really mean about being rejected. I felt really sad, but my feelings for this other girl were flourishing. During summer, I was getting closer to the girl, yet Carl just kept emailing me. The conversations went like this. How are you? Good, thanks for asking. You? I'm so depressed. I love you. Please love me. I'm a nice guy. No thanks, bye. You're cold-hearted. I'd ignore him after that, and it got so much worse the next year. The next year, I ended up with this guy, my boyfriend of 2 years now. We had a lot in common, and he was really sweet to me. But then Carl got pissed. This was like my third time rejecting him. Getting a boyfriend was so bad to him. He didn't like my boyfriend at all, and said I should be happy, but I broke his heart and didn't give him a chance. But I did. The first time he asked me out, I said we could go on a date, but he said no to all of my ideas. So me moving on and getting a boyfriend was to be expected. He ended up getting together with one of my best friends, and during that time, there was a huge field trip to another province. I didn't go. My boyfriend and I stayed. Carl was really pushy to his girlfriend. She was very uncomfortable with the romantic gestures because of things that happened in the past, and Carl just thought she owed it to him to kiss him, but she couldn't. Then he kept saying how nobody loved him and it was all the girls that rejected him. It was our fault he was depressed and gross for not being lovable. At this time, my best friend, her sister, another friend, and I had all rejected him. We realized he wasn't nice. But my best friend, for some reason, felt bad and fell for him, and she cried because of that. She felt like she wasn't enough and felt so guilty for not giving Carl what he wanted. We convinced him to go to therapy because he was just getting worse and worse. Even after all he said to us and how he treated us, we all still wanted to help him. Even my boyfriend tried to help him, but it wouldn't work. He called me abusive, told my best friend no one loved him, and we didn't try hard enough for him. My best friend had been his best friend since grade 4, and has been helping him since. He said all girls were the same. We all broke his heart. We don't owe it to him to love him like that. You never do. Recently, he faked a suicide. When we all found out he died, we all cried. I have really bad anxiety. My therapist said that is where my depression stemmed from. And when I found out, I held my emotions in to help my best friend, who had been the most affected by Carl. Once she left the call, I had a meltdown to my boyfriend. And lo and behold, he was alive. And actually mad that we all got worried. He said it was all our faults again. Blamed the girls that rejected him and said we should have been better. He would constantly message us about how depressed he was and how he was gonna kill himself. And he would only be happy if he was dating someone. We demanded an apology and he said, "Sorry that I'm such a burden. Sorry that you all had to be my friends." We all cut him off. We couldn't take it anymore. Everyone had tried so hard to support him and help him get better. It's as if he thought a girl spoke to him, it meant we were interested. If he helped us, it meant we had to date him. He took our friendship and made it into something called so romantic. The amount of times he tried to force us back into dating him was disgusting. He kept saying he'd kill himself and that he'd only be happy in a relationship. And my best friend that dated him had to deal with his cousin, constantly saying that she should give him a chance because he was happy with her, discarding the fact that she was so uncomfortable. We were best friends and then nothing more than strangers. Everyone has been looking better after cutting him off. Even his other best friends that weren't girls cut him off and looked so much better. I feel bad that we all seemed to suddenly cut him off, but we tried really hard and only got hurt in the process. We've heard from others at his new school that he's gotten better, but I prefer not to speak to him again. Time for our last story, and if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I wouldn't hurt you, I'm a nice guy. So first, I'll try to briefly explain where this all started. So I have an art account on Instagram. A few years back, I asked my followers about their religion, which prompted one guy to try and convert me. We had fruitful conversations, yada yada yada. One day, he confesses that he's fallen in love with me. I tell him no, the fuck he hasn't. He still hasn't left me alone. This is where the fun begins. A few months back, he started aggressively researching my past and who I am, eventually finding out my real name through a band I belong to. Since then, he's dropped anonymous messages and talked to me with his main account and told me personal things about me like my full name, the friends I have, and the kind of clothes I wear. You know, like a total creep. Here's where the nice guy kicks in. After I called him a C-word for digging through my past and trying to make me scared by revealing personal information, he told me, "I'm a nice guy. You know you can trust me. I'm just trying to show you how dangerous it is for a pretty girl on the internet. You should really be more careful. If this information was in the hands of someone not as nice as me, you would be screwed." He also told me that he admires the way Muslim women dress, saying that me wearing shorts and tank tops isn't appropriate, and that I'll attract the wrong kind of guys. He has always reminded me that he loves me, and that I deserve to be loved and shit like that. He also told me I should post my face more and act more feminine to boost engagement on my art account because that's how social media works. The most atrocious thing he does is criticize my alcohol consumption. He constantly tells me that my risk of brain damage and cancer increases by 20% with every drink, and that guys don't like drunks. He sent me some bullshit statistics from America, I'm not American, that said women are more likely to be raped when they're drunk, and told me to look out for my male friends. Apparently, according to him, all my guy friends are there just to use me, because guys and girls can't be friends. There's always love involved. After I told him to fuck off, he told me I wouldn't have to be worried about being raped if I just stopped drinking and hang around good people like him. Whenever I call him out on his fucking stupid behavior, he just combats it with, "I'm a nice guy. I would never hurt a lady. Why are you so mean to me? I'm a gentleman who's trying to save you from hellfire." One extra funny take he's made is, "I cannot be a C-word because God won't let me be a bad person. He made me in his image, and hence why I'm unable to do bad things." These talking points are the reasons I classify him as a nice guy. Sorry if the formatting is weird and the text is confusing. I've drunk a bit and the guy won't leave me alone, so I wanted to rant somewhere. And yes, I have blocked him, but he just keeps coming back. Currently, I'm just ignoring his messages. I just want to say being drunk does actually increase your chances of being raped. It's not that you should never drink, it's just make sure to be careful and you have someone safe there to watch you. Even doing something as simple as just sitting in between you and someone who seems creepy could be enough to save you in that situation. So make sure to look out for your friends and have your friends look out for you. This goes for guys and girls. Not only girls get raped.